Hello everybody and welcome to this amazing Tyde guide for penetration and armor reduction. In a previous guide I covered protections, and now we're going to talk about how penetration affects these protections. This is one of 3 parts that will allow us to look into several different aspects of penetration. This first part will be focusing on the types of penetration and how to calculate them. By building penetration, you're able to ignore an amount of protections your opponent has acquired. By understanding how the penetration is calculated will help us find the right penetration to purchase for each situation. There are a total of 4 types of penetration: percentage armor reduction, flat armor reduction, percentage penetration, and flat penetration. When we refer to flat penetration, we're actually referring to a whole number. Therefore, an item giving us a 10 penetration stat means that we have a flat 10 penetration. Our first type is percentage armor reduction, which is commonly found in Executioner, Spear of the Magus, or Demonic Grip. Essentially, these items apply a debuff to the enemy god that drops their overall protections for the duration of that debuff. This is extremely effective as it allows your allies to also deal more damage since the protections on the opponent are lower. This penetration also calculates first out of all types of pen. Flat armor reduction is essentially the same, except it calculates after percentage armor reduction. For example, let's say our opponent has a total of 100 protections. When fully stacking an Executioner or Spear of the Magus, it will calculate the percentage armor reduction first. Taking 24% of protections with Executioner leaves the opponent with 76 protections. Then we remove the flat amount of armor reduction the item also provides, and this will leave our opponent with a total of 58 protections overall. The same goes for Spear of the Magus. We take the 20% armor reduction first, reducing the opponent to 80 protections, then apply the 20 flat armor reduction, which leaves our opponent with 60 protections. Keep in mind that this is armor reduction, and it does not affect towers or phoenixes. This is due to the fact that you cannot apply a debuff to either of these types of objectives. However, a Titan can be targeted by debuffs, allowing you to apply armor reduction to the Titan objective. With that out of the way, next we can look at the other half of penetration, which is our actual penetration stat. Percentage penetration commonly comes from Titan's Bane or Obsidian Shard. Each item essentially provides us with 33% penetration. This does not mean that we are increasing our current penetration stat by 33%, but instead we are ignoring 33% of protections our opponent has built. This will not be reflected in our stats, but will always be effective as a passive. Just like before with armor reduction, flat penetration is calculated after percentage penetration. Therefore, once all forms of pen have been applied, it then applies the flat pen. Flat pen is also the stat that is recorded on your god and has a maximum cap. Items that give you a flat amount of penetration from stat maxes out at 50 points of pen. This does not include any type of percentage pen or armor reduction. Now, let's take a look at the example I have here using all form of pen in a single build. We'll assume our opponent has 300 magical protections, and we'll be using both Demonic Grip and Spear of the Magus. Since both of these items are percentage armor reduction, they first add both of these percent items together and deduct the total amount from the protections. With these items combined, we get a massive total of 41% armor reduction, dropping our opponent to a total of 177 protections from 300. Then we get to go back and still apply the flat armor reduction from both these items. 15 from Demonic Grip drops them to about 162, 20 pen from Spear of the Magus reduces them to 142, then we'll also add Void Stone, which provides an aura debuff of a flat 15 penetration, leaving our opponent at 127. With armor reduction out of the way, our opponent's stats are now reduced to a total of 127. Now we are carrying an Obsidian Shard, allowing us to pen 33% of their current protections, meaning we are going to ignore 33% of 127, which is approximately 42 protections. Then we calculate our flat pen from our boots, dropping them to 75. Spear of the Magus also provides an additional 15 flat pen from its base stats, allowing us to strike our opponent as if they had only 60 points of protection. And that is a crazy amount of penetration, but keep in mind that this was just an example on how to calculate all the forms of pen. In short, you'll find that flat pen works well against opponents with base protections, and percentage works well for objectives and opponents with at least one defensive item. That about wraps it up for the basics. We'll be looking at how to build pen effectively in our next guide, and we'll also be looking at how to apply penetration from skills from individual gods. If you did like this video, please share it with all your friends. Additionally, some of this information came from the almighty word of Thoth, a great guide on the in-depth mechanics of Smite. Check it out in the link in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, good game!